Recent global security incidences and developments you might have missed over the past 12 to 24 hours. It feels like the world's been holding its breath the past 12 hours as global tensions threaten to bubble over. A series of critical events pulled the threads of international stability tight, spanning multiple continents. In the heart of Europe, an assassination plot was foiled, a stark reminder of the threats lurking in an increasingly fractured political landscape. At the same time, in the Middle East, the United States is signaling new military action even as it draws down troops, creating a confusion and contradictory picture of its game plan for the region. From the escalating proxy wars in the Middle East to the brutal, grinding conflict in Ukraine, and from new geopolitical moves in West Africa to a foiled plot in Brussels, the global security landscape is shifting fast. These aren't just isolated headlines, they're interconnected events that are actively shaping the world we live in. Stick with us as we unpack what's happening and what it all means for the days ahead. Europe is on high alert. Assassination plot in Brussels. We start in Belgium, which was rocked by a full plot to assassinate the prime minister. Belgian authorities arrested 4 individuals, including some minors, who are accused of planning a violent terrorist attack. Their plan was reportedly inspired by ISIS, and it's a chilling sign that even as major conflicts rage elsewhere, the threat of radicalized violent extremism is still very much alive in Europe. This comes at a time of heightened alert across the continent. Just last month, German authorities arrested several suspected Hamas operatives. They were allegedly plotting attacks against Jewish and Israeli targets in Berlin, forcing security services to grapple with how international conflicts can spill over into domestic threats. This creates an incredibly complex security puzzle for Germany and its neighbors, watching for threats from groups like ISIS and Hamas, but also dealing with a rise in homegrown right-wing extremism groups plotting violence against migrants and political enemies. It's a multi-front battle against radicalism, and this week's foiled plot in Brussels shows just how high the stakes are. The Iraq paradox, a drawdown and a new operation. Next, let's head to the Middle East, where the U.S. military's posture in Iraq is sending some seriously mixed signals. On one hand, the U.S. has officially started drawing down its mission, something it agreed to with the Iraqi government back in 2024. The plan will reduce American troop numbers from 2,500 to below 2,000, consolidating forces mainly in the Kurdish region around Erbil. Publicly, the message is that the long fight against ISIS has been a success, and it's time to start to a more sustainable security partnership. At the same time, the U.S. has formally told the Iraqi government that a new military operation is coming. We don't know the exact details, but the notification came with a stark warning to armed groups in the country. Stand down and stay quiet while it happens. So what exactly is going on? Why announce a troop withdrawal while simultaneously planning a new military operation? It suggests that while the era of large-scale U.S. troop presence is over, Washington isn't finished with counterterrorism. This likely signals a strategy shift towards a more targeted, intelligence-driven raids against specific threats, probably using special operation forces instead of a larger army. The drawdown might be a political necessity, but the warning of a new operation is a clear signal that the U.S. still plans to act decisively in the region. A new front, Israel versus Iran's Iraqi proxies. The situation in Iraq feeds directly into the bigger power struggle between Israel and Iran. Israel is now bracing for a potential new wave of attacks coming from the east, specifically from Iranian-backed militias inside Iraq. Hezbollah, which have long been funded and armed by Tehran, are reportedly equipped with long-range drones and are setting up smuggling routes through Syria to get into position for attacks on Israel. This could open up a whole new front in the long-running shadow war. An Iraqi front would seriously test Israel's advanced multi-layered air defense systems, which are already stretched thin dealing with threats from Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Syria, and Hamas in Gaza. The presence of these heavily armed groups brings Iran's proxy power closer to Israeli soil than ever before. Israel hasn't been sitting idle. It has reportedly been carrying out strikes on logistic hubs and weapons smuggling routes near the Iraq-Iran border. On top of that, the Israel Defense Forces have been training the new 96th Jalad Division in the Jordan Valley, a unit specifically created to handle these emerging threats from the east. This week, the proactive strategy was on full display in southern Lebanon, where an IDF airstrike killed the logistics leader of Hezbollah's elite Radwan forces, along with 3 other militants. These men were reportedly key players in moving weapons and rebuilding Hezbollah's strength. It all paints a picture of Israel fighting a multi-front campaign to weaken Iran's network of proxies across the region. The war in Ukraine is heading into another brutal winter phase. Russia has dramatically ramped up its aerial bombardment campaign, aiming squarely at Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure. In October 2025 alone, Russia launched nearly 300 missiles at Ukrainian targets, the highest monthly total since the very beginning of the war in 2023. Russia's strategy here is brutal and has 2 clear goals. First, by hitting power plants and electrical substations, Moscow wants to cripple Ukraine's energy grid, hoping to plunge the country into darkness and cold to break civilian morale. Second, the relentless storm of missiles and drones is meant to burn through Ukraine's precious stockpile of air defense munitions. But Ukraine keeps showing it can hit back. A Ukrainian drone strike hit the Russian port terminal in Tuapse, causing a major fire and damaging key infrastructure. This attack deep inside Russia is a powerful reminder that Kiev isn't just playing defense. It's actively trying to disrupt the logistics and economy that fuel the Kremlin's war machine. As winter closes in, the battle for control over the skies of Ukraine is going to be absolutely critical. Over the past 12 to 24 hours has caught my attention. First and foremost in Gaza, new reports suggest that some Hamas fighters are now trapped in underground tunnels inside areas controlled by the Israeli military. According to these accounts, they've been cut off from their leadership, and some have even sent distress calls to their families, accusing their commanders of abandoning them. This points to a potential breakdown in Hamas command and controlling key areas of several cities within the Gaza Strip, southern Lebanon, and potentially the West Bank. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, a remote-controlled bomb targeted a police van, killing 1 police constable and injuring 7 other people, including civilians. The bomb was packed with high-impact ball bearings, a design meant to cause maximum casualties. And it's a grim reminder of the dangerous situation law enforcement faces in the region. Meanwhile, in Nigeria and West Africa, The U.S. Department of Defense has reiterated its commitment to countering Islamic terrorist groups operating in Sahel, including Nigeria. While not announcing a specific new mission, this ongoing focus signals that the U.S. continues to see the region as a critical front in its global counterterrorism efforts, which could lead to shifts in policy down the road. The United States and China have agreed to set up new direct military-to-military communication channels. The deal was announced after a meeting between the two countries' defense chiefs and is designed to lower the temperature and prevent any misunderstandings, especially in the hot spots like the South China Sea. And if you haven't watched that video, be sure to look for that video in the thumbnail above. From accidentally spiraling into a real conflict. Elsewhere, the U.S. military conducted a strike on drug trafficking vessel in the Caribbean, which resulted in 3 deaths. The U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin confirmed the operation, stating the vessel was run by a U.S. designated terrorist organization and was smuggling narcotics. And finally, a tragedy in Mexico, where a massive fire at a department store in Hermosillo killed over 20 people and injured many more. The fire broke out during the busy day of the dead holiday weekend, and authorities are still investigating what exactly caused it. So after all that, it's clear just how volatile our world can be. We've seen the persistent threat of terrorism, the complex dance of military strategy, and the very real human cost to conflict and disaster. From a foiled plot in Brussels to a confusing new military plan in Iraq, the pieces on the global chessboard are always moving. If you find this kind of breakdown helpful for understanding the forces shaping our world, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on our future updates. The pieces on the global chessboard are always moving. Really raise some big questions. We're seeing de-escalation between superpowers like the U.S. and China, while at the same time proxy wars and regional tensions are getting worse. The lines between counterterrorism, state-on-state conflict, and the internal security are getting blurrier than ever. As we watch these events unfold, you have to ask, are we just seeing a temporary spike in global tensions, or is this the start of a new, more unstable era in international relations? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Recent global security incidences. Breaking news, the Los Angeles Dodgers are world champions. You heard it here first on World Conflict Zone that offers breaking news as fast as possible. If you enjoyed this content, subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.
Да нет, тут прям над городом, там ты не увидишь ничего. Ебать, хуярят с пулеметов. О!
And if you enjoyed this content, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell.
Да нет, тут прям над городом, там ты не увидишь ничего. Ебать, хуярят с пулеметов. О!
And if you enjoyed this content, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can deliver timely breaking news daily. Thanks for watching. Imagine this, the sound of tense, crackling radio communication. A Chinese voice speaks in Mandarin, followed by a Filipino voice in English. Unidentified vessel, you are in Chinese jurisdictional waters. Change course immediately. To the Chinese vessel, we are conducting a lawful patrol within the Philippine exclusive economic zone. We will maintain our course. So, this isn't a scene from a movie. It's the sound of the front line in a global conflict. For the last year, all the headlines have screamed about tariffs and trade deficits. But while we've been distracted by the economic slug heating up on the high seas, we've been told the biggest threat is a trade war. We've been told wrong. That trade war is just the public face of a much deadlier conflict brewing in the South China Sea. And as the trade numbers drop, the strategic military moves are escalating, pushing the world toward a crisis that makes economic warfare look like a practice round. So, what is the trade war smokescreen? Well, for years we've gripped by the economic tug of war between Washington and Beijing. The story we're told is a simple one, a battle for economic dominance fought with tariffs and sanctions. And the number from this past year seemed to back that up. The economic chill in 2025 is undeniable. After years of growth, the data is stark. In early months of 2025, U.S. imports from China fell 7% to 128 billion, and U.S. exports to China dropped a staggering 12% to just 40 billion. This isn't just a minor dip, it's a sign of a fundamental rewiring of the global economy. The 2025 trade negotiations have been a roller coaster of punishing tariffs. Chinese goods have faced duties of up to 30%, while U.S. exports have been hit with a wall of retaliatory tariffs. Key American sectors like steel, aluminum, and auto parts remain caught in a tariff vise of 20 to 25%. And you, the consumer, are footing the bill. These tariffs have directly fueled inflation, with some estimates suggesting the trade war is costing the average American household thousands of dollars a year in lost purchasing power. It has shaved nearly a full percentage point off the GDP growth and is projected to shrink the U.S. economy by about 160 billion per year in the long run. Industries are scrambling, moving operations to places like Mexico and Canada to escape the terrorist crossfire. But what if this economic pain is just a symptom? What is the real story isn't about the supply chains, but about the battle lines. While we've been watching the economic scoreboard, the pieces on a much more dangerous board have been moving. And that board is the South China Sea. So, the real battlefield. Forget tariffs for a second and let's talk about what really is at stake. The South China Sea isn't just a body of water, it's one of the planet's most critical commercial arteries. An estimated 1/3 of global shipping, amounting to roughly 3.4 trillion in commercial goods, passes through these waters annually. The waterway is also a treasure chest of resources. The U.S. Energy Information Administration estimates the sea holds about 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Improved and profitable reserves, with potentially much more yet to be discovered. It's also home to one of the world's largest fishing zones, a resource vital to the food security of millions. Whoever controls this sea controls the flow of energy, goods, and food to a huge portion of the globe. And China is making it crystal clear it intends to be that controller. Beijing lays claim to nearly the entire sea based on its so-called line, a claim that an international tribunal invalidated in 2016, a ruling Beijing simply ignores. To enforce its claim, China has spent years building and militarizing artificial islands in the Spratly and Paracel Islands, equipping them with ports, airstrips, and even cruise missiles. The situation is escalating from a slow burn dispute to a series of volatile flashpoints throughout 2025. Chinese and Philippine vessels have been have had repeated aggressive runnings near disputed shoals involving water cannons and dangerous blocking maneuvers. Just a few days ago, at the end of October 2025, the Philippines, alongside the US, Australia, and New Zealand, conducted a joint maritime patrol. Beijing's response was swift and furious. A spokesperson for the People's Liberation Army accused Manila of being a troublemaker that had severely undermined regional peace and stability, confirming that Chinese forces were deployed to closely track and monitor the exercise. China has flatly declared that all such activities are under our firm control. This is the language of a nation gearing up for a confrontation. In April 2025, new PLA regulations came into force, enshrining preparing for war as their central mission. This isn't just rhetoric, it's a directive to align all military activity with the needs of real combat. Beijing now views the South China Sea not as a simple maritime dispute, but as a front line where sovereignty, its rivalry with the US, and the future of Taiwan all collide. So, what is this global chess match? Well, the United States is not just a passive observer in these high stakes games. Its entire post war strategy in the Pacific is being put to the test. Washington's main response has been to conduct freedom of navigation operations, also known as FONOPS. For decades, the U.S. Navy has deliberately sailed warships and flown aircraft through areas claimed by China to assert these are international waters. The goal is to uphold international law, specifically the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, also known as UNCLOS. But it's a strategy full of risks and a dose of irony. The U.S. is insisting on enforcing a treaty, UNCLOS, that it has famously never ratified itself. Beijing constantly points this out, calling U.S. FONOPS a distortion of international law that only serves the American geopolitical goals. Worse, there's growing evidence the FONOPS aren't working. An Australian research paper from early 2025 concluded the operations have been ineffective and may even be making things worse. As FONOPS become more frequent, China's response could be more hostile. Instead of being deterred, Beijing is using American naval presence as an excuse to further militarize its man-made islands. This has led to a dangerous game of chicken on the high seas, where a single miscalculation by a ship captain could spiral into a shooting war. In response to China's aggression, the U.S. is doubling down on its alliances. In late October 2025, the U.S. and Philippines announced a new joint task force specifically designed to deter Chinese coercion in the South China Sea. This adds a web of security partnerships with Japan, Australia, and India, all aimed at counterbalancing China's power. The Philippines, which is on track to chair the most powerful ASEAN bloc in 2026, has been actively deepening those ties, hosting U.S. military assets and granting access to more bases. This is the board. On one side, China is using its military and economic might to enforce a claim that would give it unmatched regional power. On the other, the U.S. and its allies are drawing red lines and conducting military drills. A conflict here would be catastrophic. According to a report from the for Economics and Peace, a blockade of Taiwan alone is estimated to cost the global economy $2.7 trillion in the first year alone. For regional economies like Taiwan, Singapore, and the Philippines, a wider conflict could erase between 10% and 33% of their GDP. So, the trade war has been a costly distraction, but its real danger is that it has pulled our focus away from the far greater risk of military confrontation. The South China Sea is where economic interests, national pride, and military power are all colliding. The time bomb is ticking. The question is no longer if it will go off, but when, and what the world will look like after it does. What's your take on the biggest risk in the South China Sea? Is a military conflict inevitable, or can diplomacy still win? Let us know in the comments below. From plummeting trade figures to naval standoffs, the connection is clear. The economic decoupling of the world's two largest economies is happening in the shadows of a much more dangerous military buildup. Every tariff, every sanction pushes the two giants further apart, eroding the shared interest that might prevent a crisis from boiling over. In the intense waters of the South China Sea, where history, resources, and ambition seem to meet, the margin for error is shrinking to zero. This is the real story of 2025. Not a trade war, but the slow, steady march toward a conflict that could redefine the 21st century. Tensions in the South China Sea remain elevated today, with diplomatic maneuvers, military patrols, and calls for regional unity dominating the headlines. The U.S. has ramped up its rhetoric and partnerships against perceived China aggression, while Beijing responded by monitoring joint exercises and pledging progress on a code of conduct. So here is a roundup of the top developments. First and foremost, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth urges ASEAN to counter China firmly. Speaking at the ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur, he called for a joint maritime awareness program to address China's destabilizing actions, including increased coercion. He committed U.S. support for unmanned surveillance tech and strengthened alliances. U.S.-Philippine launched joint task force. Pentagon announced a new bilateral task force to monitor and deter gray zone tactics by China in South China Sea, focusing on Manila's exclusive economic zone. This builds on recent joint patrols involving U.S., Australian, New Zealand forces, which were shadowed by 5 Chinese warships but proceeded uninterrupted. China tracks Philippine-led patrol. Beijing's military confirmed it monitored a multilateral exercise in the disputed waters, accusing Manila of undermining regional stability. Calls to expedite China's South Sea Code of Conduct. The Philippine lawmaker pressed ASEAN and China to finalize a long-stalled code of conduct, emphasized Beijing's role given its expansive claims. Separately, Malaysia's defense minister noted China's commitment to accelerate negotiations during talks. Broader U.S.-China dialogue. Hegseth held a constructive sideline meeting with the Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun, stressing a balance of power in Indo-Pacific while raising concerns over activities near Taiwan and allies. Both sides agreed to military channels for de-escalation. So these are the stories which reflect ongoing U.S. efforts to bolster Southeast Asia partners amid China's assertive patrols and territorial claims. No major incidences like collisions have been reported yet today, but we're very, most Most analysis warn of escalation risks. And if you enjoyed this content, hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so we can deliver India as well as world conflict news to you daily. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye for now. Some major breaking news from India today. So number one, deadly stampede at Swami Venkatarawa Temple in Andhra Pradesh. At least 9 people, including 8 women and 1 child, were killed and dozens injured in a crowd surge at this temple in the Saratham district. Pardon me if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. I tried to review it, but I'm not doing too good, I don't think. But I still want to report on this news because it matters to my Indian viewers. The incident occurred during the sacred Hindu day when hundreds of devotees gathered for prayers. A broken iron grill caused chaos, leading devotees to fall from a 6-foot-high wall. That's absolutely terrible. 2 more victims died from injuries, with others in critical condition. Local authorities have registered a case of culpable homicide against the temple owner. The second thing is Kerala declares itself free from extreme poverty. In a landmark announcement, Paravi Day, Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan stated that Kerala is the first Indian state to eradicate extreme poverty thanks to the Left Democrat Front's Extreme Poverty Alleviation Project, launched in 2021. This milestone was celebrated during a special assembly session highlighting comprehensive welfare measures, and that's fantastic. As well as India's GST collections rise to 4.6% in October. So gross goods and services tax collections climbed to 1.6, or the equivalent of 22.3 billion in October, which is 5% above the previous year, fueled by festive season spending despite recent tax cuts on over 375 items. This reflects steady economic momentum amid holiday demand. And if you enjoyed this content, hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so we can deliver India as well as world conflict news to you daily. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye for now. Quick breaking news coming out of Iran. Huge blasts erupt in Shiraz, Iran, following a fire at an LPG filling facility. Have a watch. Good God. I think that's it. Some breaking news for you. Unidentified drones have been spotted over a military base in Belgium where U.S. nuclear weapons are supposedly stored. Again, unidentified drone spotted over a military base in Belgium. That's all the information I have or can verify at this time. And if you enjoy short and long breaking news content delivered to you daily, hit like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can deliver that to you timely. Thanks for watching World Conflict Zone. Talk to you soon. Good afternoon from World Conflict Zone. I have some breaking news. Wanted to get it out to you as quick as possible. So, U.S. President Donald Trump on Nigeria, I hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the thugs who attack our cherished Christians. This is a direct warning to the Nigerian government. So specifically, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria if they don't stop killing Christians, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I'm hereby again instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attacked our cherished Christians. Warning to the Nigerian government, you better move fast. So that come out of nowhere. I'd like to give an assessment, but for the purposes of the breaking specific headlines, wanted to get this out to you as fast as I possibly could. And if you want more breaking news such as this, both in short and long format, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can deliver to you quickly and timely. Thanks for watching. Check this video out. This is a Russian FPV drone with a live mice taped to it during the flight. In review of a lot of content, I've never seen anything like this. Have a watch. And if you enjoy content such as this, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can deliver breaking news in short and long format delivered to you timely and daily. Thanks for watching World Conflict Zone. Talk to y'all soon. What I'm about to show you is a thermal power plant in Russia that was struck not once, but twice. And it appears it could be actually cruise missiles. Now, what you're going to see is you're going to watch it, and then you're going to see the first one, and then you may think that it's over, but keep in mind, watch a little bit longer, and then you will see the second explosion. And I'm just going to say it now. If you enjoy this content, want breaking news, hit like, subscribe, as well as the notifications, so you can get this information as soon as I upload it. Let's get to watching. The moment of the night strike on the 750 kV substation in the Vladimir region. The second video shows the consequences of this attack. Have a watch.
Охуеть, блядь. Вон уебал. Ебаться в рот. Не уходите никто!
Good evening to this Halloween, folks. What I'm about to show you is a viral backstage video of Erica Kirk that has supposedly gone viral due to things that people are noticing in this video. I don't notice anything except for a sad lady getting ready to go up on stage. But you know what? That's what I'm going to ask you about. Make a comment below on what it is that I'm missing.
Mr. President. Hi, how are you? So we're heading down to Florida. So I have a lot of meetings there and lunches, meetings, a lot of things having to do with the economics of America. We took in approximately $3 trillion over the last few days from the trips that we made. They were unbelievable. The deal with China is going to be wonderful. I think it's going to be long-lasting. I got really along with President Xi very well, as you saw. You were there. Many of you were there. And I think it's great. I think it's great. I think it's really good. Are you set? Are you okay?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting any audio for this.
Okay, well, let's get it right.
All right, we have it now, sir.
Okay. So the trip was fantastic. We took in over $3 trillion, really in profit, if you want to define it that way. You see the farmers are very happy. I think it's 25 million tons, but it's numbers that they've never seen before in terms of the soybeans, in terms of other things. We have numbers coming to our farmers that the farmers have never seen before from China. Our farmers are very happy. I suggest that they go out and buy larger tractors and more land. Okay? We want larger tractors and more land because nobody's ever seen anything like it. I've given China great incentives to hold down the fentanyl, get rid of it ideally. You know, a lot of people don't know it's used as an anesthesia, it's used as a lot of things. A lot of good things happen, but unfortunately when it's developed a certain way, a lot of bad things happen. Because a lot of people would say, well, why is it made? I mean, it's made for a lot of good purposes, but it also has some very bad purposes when you design it a certain way and people can take it and design it. So China's working very hard on that. I really believe that. And they have an incentive. I'd love to get rid of the extra 10%. I put a 20% penalty on. I had a great conversation about it with President Xi yesterday. And I'd love to get rid of the other. As soon as we see that, we'll get rid of the other 10%. Other than that, we haven't cut the tariffs at all with China.
But you made a decision on that?
No, it's not true.
Mr. President, on the nuclear strikes, the nuclear tests that you were talking about, and are you talking about literally resuming underground nuclear detonation tests?
You'll find out very soon, but we're going to do some testing. Yeah, other countries do it. If they're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Okay, you can't clarify whether you'll resume.
I'm not going to say yet. I mean, I know exactly what we're doing, where we're doing it, but other countries are doing it, and if other countries do it, we do it.
Do you have any more details on the FBI thwarting that that terrorist attack in Michigan that was set to happen over the weekend, Halloween weekend? The FBI.
We're catching people before they ever start. Yeah.
Mr. President, your response to Viktor Orban saying he'll ask for an exemption from U.S. President, your response to Viktor Orban saying he'll ask for an exemption from U.S. sanctions on Russian oil.
He has asked for an exemption. We haven't granted one, but he has asked. Victor, he's a friend of mine. He's asked for an exemption.
President, your response to Viktor.
Good morning, this October 31st. Let's get right to the top three items. So in Michigan, this morning, the FBI thwarted a potential terrorist attack and arrested multiple subjects in Michigan who are allegedly plotting a violent attack over Halloween weekend. Moving on to Venezuela. GPS jamming around Venezuela has been reported. U.S. President Donald J. Trump denies media reports from earlier today regarding Venezuela, telling reporters aboard Air Force One that he has not yet made a decision about and is not currently considering military strikes against Venezuela. Now, moving on to the big headline out of Moscow. Russia plans to issue its first yuan-denominated bonds on the domestic market this year. Now, let's continue with the briefs in Puerto Rico. A lot of U.S. Air Force planes went to Puerto Rico yesterday, and that information was saved on flight data radar 24. Okay, so now continuing with Puerto Rico, USA just closed off the airspace near Puerto Rico with a NOTAM announcing hot pit refueling at the local airport. Hot pit refueling means aircraft are refueled with their engines still running so they can take off quickly again. Appears it's going to be a long night ahead for Maduro because things are sus. Now let's move on to Washington, D.C. According to the American newspaper Miami Herald, the United States has already decided to carry out strikes on Venezuelan military targets. The article states that airstrikes may commence within the next few hours or days, and their objective will be the elimination of the cartel leadership. Reportedly, The assaults may begin as a combined operation involving both U.S. air and naval forces. The principal targets are Venezuelan military bases and seaports used by the Sun Cartel, a Venezuelan narcotics trafficking organization which the United States alleges is led by President Maduro and senior members of his regime. Now moving on to Poland. Poland scrambled fighter jets for the third time in 3 days over Russian reconnaissance plane over the Baltic. On the morning of October 31st, the Polish Air Force again intercepted a Russian Tu-20 over the Baltic Sea. The Polish Armed Forces Operational Command told their local political newspaper. The aircraft was flying without a filed flight plan and with its transponder off, violating international safety rules. Similar incidences with the same type of aircraft were reported on October 29th and the 30th. Moving on to Lithuania. Lithuanian railways suspend transit of Russian oil due to U.S. and British sanctions. After November 21st, no more transportation of Luk oil or Rosneft products through the country will take place. Now moving back to Moscow. We'll sit with Putin, make a decision, and fire the Orishnik. Lukashenko threatens Europe with ballistic missiles. The Belarusian dictator confirmed that the Orish missile system will enter combat duty in Belarus in December. It's a terrible weapon. It will go on combat duty in December. Why? I want them, the Western countries, to understand that we can fire if things go badly. We'll sit with Putin, make a decision, and fire. So don't provoke us. After all, the war in Ukraine started this way. In Donbass, Russian speakers were oppressed, killed, and persecuted. I witnessed all this, the dictator said. Now moving on to some brief Middle East headlines. Israel's reportedly alarmed as a new intelligence shows Hezbollah rapidly rearming with rockets, air tank missiles, and artillery. According to the Wall Street Journal, the group is smuggling weapons through Syrian routes, seaports, and producing some itself. Despite Israel's over 1,000 strikes and support for Lebanese disarmament, Hezbollah insists its arsenal is needed to protect Lebanon's sovereignty. Continuing with Lebanon, Lebanon signed on to the cessation of hostilities, which stipulates disarming Hezbollah, but has not upheld its commitment, forcing Israel to do Beirut's job. Now, let's get into some more details on the Michigan terror plot. Patel speaking, and I'm going to read this off because it's way too much information and it's easier for me to get into the nitty-gritty scripted. So just for full transparency, I am reading this stuff off because I want to be able to get you the information, read you the headlines, get you through the headlines, then get you to the top nitty-gritty details of some of those headlines. So again, we're going to start off with the Michigan terror plot foiled, and it's in depth. So this morning, Patel speaking in D.C., which he was referencing to a public X post from this morning, which announced FBI arrest tied to a foil terror plot. The phrasing, "they've all been arrested," is an exaggerated summary of Patel's words, meaning arrested multiple subjects, amped up the virality on right-leaning outlets amid Patel's ongoing controversies. The core announcement, what happened? Patel revealed that the FBI thwarted a potential terrorist attack by arresting multiple subjects, meaning suspects, in Michigan earlier today. The plot allegedly targeted a violent attack over Halloween weekend, with raids hitting 3 homes in the Dearborn and Inkster areas, a region with a large Arab American community, which could add political layers. Patel's exact quote, "This morning, the FBI thwarted a potential terrorist attack and arrested multiple subjects in Michigan who were allegedly plotting a violent attack over this coming Halloween weekend. More details to come. Thanks to the men and women of the FBI and law enforcement everywhere standing guard 24/7 and crushing our mission to defend the homeland." So, what are the details so far? No names, charges, or group affiliations have been released yet. More details to come suggest a presser or affidavit soon. Michigan governor wasn't pre-notified, which the article notes as a point of tension, echoing past FBI state frictions. And if there's a press conference or any updated information, I'll be sure to get a video out with that follow-up. Now let's move on to Venezuela GPS jamming in depth. So Venezuela GPA jamming, what is the information on this? The current situation and the implications. Overview of the GPS jamming in Venezuela, meaning there are credible reports indicating that GPS jamming and interference has been occurring in and around Venezuela, and I've been able to confirm this as a fact, particularly along its eastern coast and the broader Caribbean region. These incidents have been documented as recently as today through open source intelligence tracking tool, also known as OSINT, flight data monitors, and discussions on social media by aviation and political observers. While mainstream media, Western media, may not extensively cover these disruptions, real-time signal monitoring confirms their presence and aligns them with patterns seen in other high-tension regions. Now, what is the key evidence of this jamming activity? Multiple OSINT reports have identified heavy GPS ADS-B signal jamming in eastern Venezuela, specifically around, I can't pronounce this, Matoran, Ciudad Guayna, and the states of Monagas and Bolivar. This interference has also extended to nearby areas such as Trinidad and Tobago and the Los Roques Archipelago, which, with incidents reported between October 29th and October 31st. Earlier in September, there were spikes in jamming activity across the Caribbean, particularly during periods of heightened U.S.-Venezuela tensions. These incidences affected regions near Puerto Rico and international waters. Now, global tracking platforms like GPSjam.org display daily interference maps, while public summaries for 2025 data on Venezuela and the Caribbean remain limited, likely due to the sporadic nature of these events and their connection to local military operations rather than major conflicts. The patterns are recognizable. Aviation authorities and shipping companies have observed similar disruptions in the region, reflecting the broader global trend of approximately 1,000 daily GPS interference incidences in 2025. Impacts of this GPS jamming. GPS jamming works by broadcasting powerful radio noise on the same frequencies used by GPS satellites, which overwhelms receivers and prevents devices from accurately locking onto satellite signals. This form of interference is not hacking, but rather a denial of service tactic that causes devices to lose their ability to triangulate position. Navigation failures. Aircraft shifts and drones must resort to backup navigation systems, such as inertial guidance, paper charts, or VOR beacons. In the busy Caribbean shipping lanes, especially those transporting Venezuelan oil, this increases the risk of collisions. For example, vessels may appear miles off from their actual location on these AIS charts. Safety and economic impacts. The effects include delays for flights, such as those traveling from the capital to Trinidad, disruptions to fishing and drone operations, and higher fuel costs due to manual rerouting. In several cases, this GPS jamming contributes to accidents, as is demonstrated by a 2024 jet crash in Azerbaijan linked to such interference, which Putin recently has apologized for. Civilian effects. While civilians may experience glitches in GPS-based apps like Google Maps or ride-sharing platforms, most significant impacts are only really felt in the aviation and maritime sectors. So what is the broader implication here? The occurrence of GPS jamming highlights the vulnerabilities present in these current navigation systems. Now, let's kind of look at the reasons for this jamming. Well, the GPS jamming in Venezuela is closely tied to escalating tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela this year. It is likely employed as a defensive electronic warfare measure by the Maduro government. Geopolitical triggers. These incidences often coincide with U.S. military aircraft entering airspace claimed by Venezuela, and amid ongoing disputes over elections, oil sanctions, and migration issues. Reports suggest the Venezuelan government views GPS denial as a countermeasure to precision-guided weapons such as the Tomahawk missiles that do rely on GPS. Military activity. The jamming is explicitly linked to Venezuelan military exercises or readiness drills in the oil-rich Orinoco Belt, a region frequently associated with such operations. Foreign support. Russia has provided electronic warfare technology to Venezuela since 2019, and the tactics used mirror those observed in the Baltic region. So what is the global context here, folks? The pattern of incidences in Venezuela fits with the global trend of around 700 to 1,000 daily GPS jamming events, often as a byproduct of military posturing near conflict zones. While Venezuela denies any hostile intent, the observed patterns suggest the jamming is a deliberate deterrent. Should diplomatic tensions ease, the frequency of this GPS jamming should be expected to decline. For ongoing monitor, I will continue to look at the tracking of these jams and update accordingly in future videos. Now, let's get into the next in-depth item. The Moscow First Yuan-denominated bonds in depth. So again, I'm going to read this off to you because it's just way too much. But it's very informative because when you have a headline, okay, such as that, I want to make sure that, we all understand what that headline actually means and what it means to world conflicts. So Russia does plan to issue its first yuan-denominated bond on the domestic market this year. What does this mean? In simple terms, this announcement signals Russia's push to diversify its financial tools away from Western currencies like the US dollar by issuing government bonds, essentially IOUs for borrowed money, that are priced, sold, and repaid in Chinese yuan, which is the RMB, China's currency, directly on Russia's stock exchanges like the Moscow Exchange. This would be the first time the Russian government has done this domestically as opposed to abroad, like in China's panda bond market. The plan, reported today, October 31st, aims to tap into the huge pool of yuan held by Russian banks and investors from booming trade with China. Now, what is the background here? Why is Russia doing this now? Well, it's simply put, it's sanctions pressure. Since the sanctions, and then recently with Trump upping up the sanctions along with Britain, okay, I'm going to skip some of this stuff. So that's really what that part boils down to, is because of the sanction on oil and gas and exports and things of that nature. Now, what does this mean? Well, Russia's 2025 budget deficit is growing, so it needs to borrow more, up to 10 trillion rubles. High ruble-denominated bond yields, around 14 to 15%, make domestic borrowing expensive, but these bonds could attract cheaper Chinese capital. Building momentum. This follows corporate moves and September 2025 talks of linking Russian and Chinese markets for easier access. It's also tied to BRICS' effort to boost local currency finance. So what are the implications for Russia here? Well, it's going to provide an economic boost, which they need desperately. It lets Russia cycle the liquidity into infrastructure or defense without flooding the market with rubles, which they have been doing previously, and it's really weakened the currency. Expect issuance sizes in the billions and maturities of 3 to 10 years. Investor appeal targets Russian firms and banks holding this currency, plus Chinese buyers for cross-border links, potentially lowering borrowing costs versus the ruble bonds. And really, overall, it's a strategic, low drama move into currency wars. It isn't revolutionary, but a clear step toward financial sovereignty is where I got some of this information. So with that said, that's all I have to report this midday on October 31st. And if you enjoyed this content, such as this in short formats, hit the subscribe, like, and notification bell so we can deliver that to you timely. Good morning this Halloween. As you see in the picture with the yellow and the red, that is the level of GPS interference, which is happening on the northern coast of Venezuela. So let's keep an eye on that, as we've seen with the Ukraine and Russia report or war, that oftentimes that jamming, especially in the Baltics, ends up meaning something, just not necessarily at the time it becomes revealed. So with that said, if you want to keep up to date, not only with Venezuela, but with Russia and Ukraine, hit the like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can deliver in short and long format as often as relevant and get it to you. Anyways, thanks for watching World Conflict Zone. This is Matthew. Have a good rest of your day and trick or treat. Good morning this Halloween, October 31st. I just wanted to share that I'm working on a new video, a long video, and I've gone back to the classic map format, as it appears that most of you prefer my regular voice with the map, even though I'm surprised at that. But if you want short, long, and breaking news offered to you daily, subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, I'm going to get back to working on it so I can get that news out to you as fast as I possibly can. It appears that speed in getting the content to you, even if my scripts aren't perfect, matters more to you, the viewer. And so that's what I'm going to start doing. Thank you very much for the feedback. Now, have a great Halloween. Some odd news to report. According to open source intel, an Iranian official said the following: "We poured millions into spreading Islam in Japan. After 6 years, only one person converted, and he wasn't even Japanese. Have a watch."
تو ژاپن رفتن. فلان دستگاهی که بیش از 1000 میلیارد داره در سال بودجه داره میگیره، وظیفه داشت که ژاپنی ها رو مسلمان کنه. در طول 6 سال یه نفر مسلمان کرده بود. بعد فهمیدیم اونم ژاپنی نیست. یه کارگر میگم بوتانی کجاییه. تو ژاپن رفتن.
So what do you think of this comment? As well as, if you enjoyed this content, hit the like button, as well as subscribe and hit the notification so we can deliver conflict news to you daily. What you're about to look at is a AASM Hammer airstrike on a Russian base. Have a watch. Music. Boom, boom. One more time. Boom, boom. So there you have it. If you enjoy short content and long-form content dealing with world conflict news, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can deliver short and long version breaking news delivered to you timely and daily. Thanks for watching. This is Beast. So what you're looking at here is it's inside a recon flight in the eye wall of Melissa. Hurricane Melissa, that is. Keep in mind, these crew members do this every hurricane season. It's really an unbelievable job by each one of them aboard the NOAA and AF recon missions. Let's continue to watch. You'll see here in a second. Is that an alien or Kermit the Frog or something? Yeah, it's pretty wild, isn't it? I got a headache just looking at it. Anyways, if you enjoy content such as this, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. We can deliver to you daily and constantly, dealing with world events, including hurricanes, volcanoes, and earthquakes, as well as conflict news like Ukraine and Russia, etc., etc. This is Beast. Thanks for watching. So what you're watching is a Ukrainian drone strike was halted after Russian soldiers signaled surrender with a white cloth. A loudspeaker drone then guided them safely into Ukrainian custody. And there you have it. If you enjoy content such as this, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can deliver short and long format to you daily and timely. Thanks for watching World Conflict Zone. Some updated information when it comes to Israel and the IDF. The first and foremost, there was a posting that said, "The Lion of Zion neither slumbers nor sleeps." Psalm 121:4. So the IDF is active on these multiple fronts. Reports indicate the IDF forces reached the outskirts of Daraa in Israel's southern Syrian sector to carry out arrests, signaling a significant ground incursion. At the same time, another IDF unit entered Lebanese territory. Man, I got an orange cat right below me, and he's tickling me. Yeah, he just meowed. Sorry, guys. You want authentic? Well, there you go. Let's start this again. At the same time, another IDF unit entered Lebanese territory, blowing up terror structures in the abandoned village of Edessa. The goal, to demolish all buildings within Israel's security buffer zone in Lebanon, similar to the model used in Gaza. Would you stop it? I'm trying to do a video. Heavy IDF strikes, airstrikes, and artillery fire continue across central and southern Hamas strangleholds in the Gaza Strip. So there's your updates. Stop it, Cat. For the multiple fronts that Israel is fighting at this moment. For more world conflict zone updates, would you stop? Hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. I promise not every video is like this, but my cat is right on me and he's trying to jump up the wall. But hit the like button. notifications, and subscribe so you can get more breaking news delivered in short and long format daily. Hopefully orange cat not included. Some quick breaking news brought to you by World Conflict Zone. The Russians hit the TV tower in the center of Chernihiv. The building was damaged. Residents are asked not to approach the TV tower and to limit their stay within a radius of 200 meters. I have this picture, don't have any video. When I do get video, I'll post a short and let you know. If you enjoy this content, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want breaking news such as this, short or long format, delivered daily. In order to deliver it to you daily, don't forget to hit the notification bell so we can deliver that to you timely. Thanks for watching.
Tara! Takbo! 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 Inang! Inang po! Inang po! Inang po! Inang po! Inang po! Diyos ko 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 po! Takbo! Takbo na!
The Philippines experienced a series of minor eruptions on October the 26th, in about a minute, producing a short, billowing plume. Then it was two more minor eruptions later that day, with one captured in a time-lapse footage at 11:42 a.m., ejecting ash and steam from the main crater. These events generated ash plumes rising up to 2,400 meters above the crater. As reported by the Tokyo Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, eyewitness accounts and social media videos described a massive black cloud darkening the sky, as you can see, the ground shaking and ash falling miles away, prompting evacuations. The more significant explosive event on the same day produced surges, an eruption column reaching 2,100 meters, described as the largest in 5 years and potentially the most powerful of the decade. No major new eruptions have been reported since this date, but they continue to monitor for increased activity. The volcano remains under alert level 2 with restrictions on access within a 6-kilometer radius. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button as well as subscribe for more breaking news that we occasionally do, things like volcanoes, hurricanes, along with world conflict events. Subscribe, hit the notifications, and talk to you soon.
Got it.
Holy, the blast wave is about to reach us.
You kidding me?
Look for safe.
It might be far away, hell. There's a fire there. Holy, that's amazing.
More breaking conflict news coming out at this hour. This is per Donald Trump in a post either on X or True Social. I believe it's True Social. The United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. This was accomplished, including a complete update and renovation of existing weapons during my first term in office. Because of the tremendous destructive power, I hated to do it, but had no choice. Russia is second and China is a distant third, but we will be even within 5 years. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald Trump. More breaking conflict news coming.
On a spring morning in 1647,
More breaking conflict news coming out at this hour. Breaking news. The recent global security incidences and developments you might have missed over the past 12 to 24 hours. You know, it feels like the world's been holding its breath the past 12 hours as global tensions threaten to bubble over. A series of critical events pulled the threads of international stability tight, spanning multiple continents. In the heart of Europe, an assassination plot was foiled. Recent global security incidences and developments you might have missed over the past 12 to 24 hours. You know, it feels like the world's been holding its breath the past 12 hours as global tensions threaten to bubble over. A series of critical events pulled the threads of international stability tight, spanning multiple continents. In the heart of Europe, an assassination plot was foiled, a stark reminder of the threats lurking in an increasingly fractured political landscape. At the same time, in the Middle East, the United States is signaling new military action even as it draws down troops, creating a confusion and contradictory picture of its game plan for the region. From the escalating proxy wars in the Middle East to the brutal, grinding conflict in Ukraine, and from new geopolitical moves in West Africa to a foiled plot in Brussels, the global security landscape is shifting fast. These aren't just isolated headlines, they're interconnected events that are actively shaping the world we live in. Stick with us as we unpack what's happening and what it all means for the days ahead. Europe is on high alert. Assassination plot in Brussels. We start in Belgium, which was rocked by a full plot to assassinate the prime minister. Belgian authorities arrested 4 individuals, including some minors, who are accused of planning a violent terrorist attack. Their plan was reportedly inspired by ISIS, and it's a chilling sign that even a major conflicts rage elsewhere, the threat of radicalized violent extremism is still very much alive in Europe. This comes at a time of heightened alert across the continent. Just last month, German authorities arrested several suspected Hamas operatives. They were allegedly plotting attacks against Jewish and Israeli targets in Berlin, forcing security services to grapple with how international conflicts can spill over into domestic threats. This creates an incredibly complex security puzzle for Germany and its neighbors, watching for threats from groups like ISIS and Hamas, but also dealing with a rise in homegrown right-wing extremism. groups plotting violence against migrants and relax. As you relax, we're going to begin with my voice. And we're going to start off with Russian force generation and technological adaptations. And the most recent update was from October the 9th, 2025. So we're going to start off with here some key takeaways. Number 1. Russian forces have been increasingly targeting Ukrainian logistical routes and positions in the near rear using mothership unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as UAVs, particularly motherships based on variants of the Orlan and Manya fixed-wing drones since at least August 2025. 2. Russian developers are integrating fiber optic cables into cheaper drones to scale Russian forces' ability to conduct drone strikes at farther ranges. Number 3. Russian forces are trying to scale to the production of fiber optic UAVs to increasingly intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber drones. 4. Russian developers reportedly introduced fiber optic FPV UAVs that can function as repeater drones for other strike and reconnaissance UAVs, extending Russian tactical drone ranges to up to 60 kilometers. 5. Russian forces are pursuing moving targets in the near rear with Shahed and Gerba UAVs with integrated cameras and radio control capabilities. And 6. Russian developers are fielding new countermeasures against Ukrainian drone interceptors, chiefly via newly integrated radio detectors. So now as you lay there and you relax, my hope is that you can digest some technical information, which oftentimes can be boring for people. So, we are now going to convert to an AI-generated voice, and we're going to get into the details from those 5 key takeaways. And if you end up enjoying this content, please hit that like button and subscribe to World Conflict Zone. And again, welcome to the first edition of Conflict Zone Technical Briefs for Sleep.
Russian forces have been increasingly targeting Ukrainian logistics routes and positions in the near rear using mothership unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, particularly motherships based on variants of the Orlan and Molniya fixed-wing drones, since at least August 2025. Ukrainian forces reported on August 22 that they shot down a Russian Orlan reconnaissance UAV that functioned as a mothership and carried 2 first-person view UAVs for the first time. 1. A source in the Russian Defense Industrial Base, DIB, later told Kremlin newswire TASS on September 8 that Russian forces are using Orlan-10 UAVs for transporting loitering munitions and that the new use of Orlan mothership carrier drones allows Russia to significantly increase the range of Russian drone strikes in the near rear. 2. One Russian mill blogger claimed that Russian forces struck Zaporizhia city with UAVs twice as of September 4 and credited Russia's capability to strike at an extended range to mothership drones that operate using Ukrainian SIM cards. 3. Ukrainian and Russian sources indicated in late September 2025 that Russian forces began actively using cheaply made MOLNIYA-2 fixed-wing first-person view FPV drones as mothership UAVs to extend tactical drone ranges beyond 25 kilometers in the Kupiansk, Lyman, Pokrovsk, and Novopavlivka directions. 4. Ukrainian servicemen reported that Russian forces have been using Molniya mothership UAVs as repeater drones for other strike and reconnaissance drones and to interdict Ukrainian ground lines of communication, GLOCs. as these drones allow Russian forces to target Ukrainian logistics up to 20 to 25 kilometers from the front line. 5. Another Russian mill blogger observed Ukraine's widespread use of mothership drones that are based on heavy multicopters that simultaneously act as repeater UAVs. 6. Russian developers are trying to expand the ways to control mothership UAVs to improve Russian forces' ability to strike Ukrainian targets deeper in the near rear and rear. The Russian company KB Valkyria reportedly presented the Road 8 mothership UAV, which reportedly uses radio channels, Starlink, or mobile networks up to a range of 150 kilometers. 7. The Road 8 mothership UAV can carry 2 FPV drones, each with a 3-kilogram warhead and day and night cameras. KB Valkyria also reportedly manufactures the Road 7, Road 10, and Road 12 variants of the UAV, with Road 12 being the largest in the lineup. KB Valkyria advertised their RD-class UAVs as multi-purpose platforms that can be used as a reconnaissance, mothership, or repeater UAVs, a likely response to the growing need of versatile drone platforms that are necessary to overcome the expanding denial area and kill zone, an area immediately near the front line where a mass of tactical strike and reconnaissance drones pose an elevated risk to any equipment or personnel that enters the area. KB Valkyria reportedly designed the Road 8 UAV's functions to support clearing enemy positions ahead of further FPV UAV drone attacks. The chief designer and deputy general director of Russia's State United Aircraft Corporation, UAC, Sergei Korotkov, told TASS on September 7 that the UAC is pursuing several projects to develop attack drones that can be launched from air-based platforms. 8. Russian forces are trying to alleviate manpower and training requirements by reportedly developing artificial intelligence, AI, capabilities for drone swarms. A source in the Russian DIB told TASS on August 31 that Russian forces had combat-tested new AI-based technology that allows Russian drone operators to control several FPV UAVs at once. 9. The source claimed that AI allows Russian drone operators to switch control between drones while they fly in cruise control mode to conserve battery. The source claimed that drone swarms could allow Russian forces to increase firepower on the battlefield and argued that AI capabilities will shorten drone operator training by 1 to 2 months. Russian developers are integrating fiber optic cables into cheaper drones to scale Russian forces' ability to conduct drone strikes at farther ranges. Russian sources published footage on September 13 and 14 showing Russian MOLNIYA-2 UAVs with fiber optic cables striking claimed Ukrainian targets in the Kherson direction for the first time, indicating that Russian forces have begun to attach the cable to cheaply made Molniya UAVs, likely to significantly scale the number of fiber optic UAVs on the battlefield. 10. Ukrainian servicemen have observed Russian forces using Molniya drones with fiber optic cables, at least in the Lyman direction, as of late September 2025. 11. One Russian mill blogger claimed that the MOLNIYA-2 UAVs with fiber optic cables have a range of up to 20 kilometers, while another claimed that Russian developers were able to attach a 40-kilometer fiber optic cable onto MOLNIYA-2 UAV, making the UAV invulnerable to EU and having a high-quality video feed. 12. Ukrainian electronic and radio warfare expert Serhiy Flash Veskresnov observed on September 13 that Russian forces were finishing testing of Molniya UAVs with fiber optic cables, but noted that adding the cable would decrease the UAV's warhead size and range. 13. Veskresnov added that such an adaptation will allow Russia to strike Ukrainian targets in the kill zone and along the international border up to a 20-kilometer distance. Russian developers recently modified some Molniya UAV variants to operate as motherships and have thermobaric warheads. 14. A Ukrainian brigade operating in the Kharkiv direction observed that Russian forces still largely rely on radio-controlled FPV UAVs as opposed to fiber optic UAVs due to a lack of trained drone operators. 15. Russian forces are trying to scale the production of fiber optic UAVs to increasingly intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber drones. A Russian mill blogger claimed that Russian forces have been using fiber optic drones such as Up-Ear UAVs to intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber drones, which have EU capabilities to jam Russian drone interceptors. 16. The mill blogger added that Up-Ear drones have a range of over 30 kilometers that allows them to isolate parts of the front line and stretch out Ukrainian GLOCs by 20 kilometers. Russian mill bloggers particularly attributed Ukrainian heavy bomber drone and multi-copter losses to the Rubicon Center for Advanced Unmanned Technologies. 17. Another mill blogger, however, complained that Russian forces do not have enough fiber optic drones to intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber UAVs, and it is likely that Russian developers are integrating fiber optic cables onto cheap Molnia drones to overcome these shortages. 18. Russian DIB is rapidly trying to address fiber optic UAV shortages, with the Kremlin's People's Front movement claiming in early September 2025 that Russia delivered 1,000 Veturek fiber optic UAVs of different modifications to the battlefield. 19. Veturek fiber optic UAVs reportedly have a 30-kilometer range and can carry 7 kilograms. 20. Russian developers reportedly introduced fiber optic FPV UAVs that can function as repeater drones for other strike and reconnaissance UAVs, extending Russian tactical drone ranges to up to 60 kilometers. A Kremlin-affiliated milblogger claimed that Russian developers created repeater drones with a fiber optic cable that could enable Russian forces to quadruple the range of frontline drones. 21. The milblogger explained that the new fiber optic repeater UAVs boost the signal to the attached FPV fiber optic strike UAV. The fiber optic cable controls reportedly allow Russian drone operators to bypass EU systems and operate at a range of up to 50 to 60 kilometers. The milblogger added that the fiber optic repeater drone can adjust the tension of the cable to avoid the cable snagging on the ground and noted that Russian forces can connect multiple attack drones to the repeater drone. The milblogger noted that Russian forces are increasingly using mid-range drones to target Ukrainian GLOCs, but warned that Ukrainian forces are adopting similar measures. Russian forces are increasingly employing various other repeaters to extend drone ranges in Ukraine. The Smolensk Oblast-based drone force company claimed to TASS that a Russian FIRS FPV UAV struck a Ukrainian target at a record distance of 38 kilometers after receiving support from a signal repeater. 22. The Russian Veter Design Bureau presented the Veter X FPV UAV that can strike targets at a range of over 30 kilometers by operating in conjunction with an airborne repeater and claimed that Russian forces can control the drone via radio frequency or fiber optic cable. 23. Veskresnov observed that many Russian drone operators operate drones via repeaters and that the use of repeaters has increased steadily over the past 6 months. 24. A former Russian Stormz trainer and milblogger credited improvements in the effectiveness of Russian tactical reconnaissance strike complexes to the widespread use of repeaters linked to integrated drone control support networks. 25. The milblogger complained, however, that the Russian military command has not provided Russian military units with sufficient repeaters. Russian forces are trying to control unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, via fiber optic cables, likely in an effort to undermine successful Ukrainian USV operations in the Black Sea and threaten Ukrainian coastal cities. Russian VOIN, Warrior, Military Patriotic Training Center instructors reportedly trained with Irtish USVs, which reportedly have fiber optic cable and Hermes communication system controls, in late August 2025. 26. A Kremlin-affiliated milblogger claimed on September 8 that the Novgorod Research and Production Center, also known as Ushkunik, developed a USV with fiber optic communications and that the Black Sea Fleet would test the USV in September 2025. 27. The milblogger claimed that the USV can function as a strike drone, USV interceptor, or as a FPV drone carrier and launch platform. The milblogger added that the USV serves as a repeater to other radio-controlled FPV drones and that the fiber optic cable is heavy and sinks to the seafloor, which prevents it from breaking. Ukrainian military outlet Defense Express assessed that it is unlikely that Russian UAVs will use fiber optic cables exceeding 100 kilometers, but warned that such USV carriers could bring Russian FPV UAVs in range of Odessa, Mykolaiv, and Kherson cities if the USV carriers launch from the occupied Kinburn Spit. 28. The Russian military command is likely trying to catch up to Ukraine's successful integration of USVs in combat operations and reportedly provided Rubicon elements with USVs in summer 2025. 29. The Russian Ministry of Defense, MOD, claimed on August 28 that Russian USVs attacked a Ukrainian reconnaissance ship in the mouth of the Danube River for the first time. 30. Russian developers continue to test and present other USVs like the Bek R 5-meter-long USV, which Russian manufacturers reportedly plan to equip with machine vision capabilities. 31. Russia is still trying to overcome the lack of stable satellite internet connection to control UAVs. Russian state media reported in late August 2025 that Russian developers tested a new UAV that flew by transmitting a signal via the Gazprom-owned Yamal 601 satellite in geostationary orbit. 32. Veskresnov explained that Russia does not have a network of low-orbit modern satellites for high-speed internet access, instead relying on the Yamal 601 satellite that only partly covers Ukraine and has a delayed signal due to the far distance of the geostationary orbit. 33. Veskresnov observed that Russian efforts to operate unmanned systems via the Yamal-601 satellite signal remain vulnerable to signal delays and to any physical obstacles between the Russian satellite and receiver terminals. Russian developers claim to have decreased the signal delay, but Veskresnov noted that antennas that facilitate the connection to the satellite are too heavy and large for UAVs to carry. Veskresnov warned, however, that Russian forces may try to integrate these antennas on Russian USVs because of USVs' larger size and capability to carry more weight. Veskresnov stated that such antennas are not new technology, but expressed doubt that the antenna will be able to maintain a stable signal when attached to a small USV rocking while at sea. Russian developers may be integrating fiber optic cables into USVs to address the lack of a stable satellite internet connection to operate drones. 34. Russian forces are pursuing moving targets in the near rear with Shahed, Jarin, and Gerbera UAVs with integrated cameras and radio control capabilities. Russian sources published footage on October 1 reportedly showing Russian forces striking a moving Ukrainian locomotive with an MS variant of Shahed UAV in Bobrovitsa, Chernihiv Oblast. 35. A Kremlin-affiliated millblogger claimed that the MS variant is equipped with a thermal imaging camera and a video stream, which allows Russian drone operators to pursue moving targets in real time via radio control. 36. The millblogger added that Russian drone operators are prioritizing striking trains, traction substations, and locomotives in Chernihiv and Sumy oblasts with MS Shaheds. 37. Russian millbloggers also claimed that Russian forces struck Ukrainian energy infrastructure and conducted a fly of Kyiv city with MS Shaheds. 38. Russian forces likely started fielding MS Shaheds in June 2025 by adapting Iranian and Chinese-controlled reception pattern antennas, CRPA, AI components, cameras and thermal imagers, and radio modems. 39. Veskresnov assessed on October 1 that Russia's use of Shahed variants with online controls remains limited and not as dynamic, that these variants have a range of up to 200 kilometers, and that UAV controls rely on Chinese cameras and radio modems. 40. Veskresnov assessed that Russian forces are unlikely to use Shahed variants to strike individual military vehicles and will likely target railways, groupage transport, and heavy equipment. Russian forces also installed cameras and radio modems onto Gerbera UAVs, likely in an effort to identify Ukrainian interceptor drones and improve Russian drone reconnaissance capabilities at a lower cost. Ukrainian forces also intercepted a Gerbera reconnaissance drone equipped with 2 visual detection cameras for interceptor UAVs. 41. Ukrainian defense outlet Militarny reported that Russian forces began using modified Gerbera drones in fall 2024, but did not scale the use of such modifications until recently. 42. A Ukrainian detachment commander noted that Russian forces have been increasingly using modified Gerberas as reconnaissance UAVs in the Pokrovsk direction because these UAVs are cheaper to procure than Orlan, Zala, and Supercam reconnaissance UAVs. 43. Russian forces are remotely mining Ukrainian positions and logistics routes deeper in the rear using Shahed, Jarin, UAVs. Kherson Oblast Military Administration warned on August 28 that Russian forces began using Shaheds to remotely mine roads and areas in the near rear with anti-vehicle mines. 44. Kherson Oblast Military Administration noted that the anti-vehicle mines automatically detonate after 16 to 24 hours. Ukrainian sources later reported on September 21 that Russian forces likely dropped Lepestok PFM-1 anti-personnel mines from unspecified drones, likely Shahed or Gerbera UAV, over Najin.
Number 4. Iraqi Shia political party divisions. Unspecified Shia coordination framework parties are reportedly attempting to receive political support from the United States ahead of the November 2025 Iraqi parliamentary elections, which reflects continued divisions within the coalition. Iraqi media reportedly on October 27th that unspecified Shia coordination framework parties are in a political rush to receive U.S. support before the elections on November 11th, 2025. So those are the key takeaways for the Middle East. Now let's move on to the very latest for China and Taiwan. It's now been 30 minutes that you have been listening. And You should be asleep by now. I've tried to make this informative, but boring. So now we are going to move to the key takeaways. Again, for Asia. So what are the key takeaways? Number one, PLA purges. The CCCP General Secretary has expanded his military purges, expelling 9 of the senior-most generals from the CCP and referring them for criminal prosecution. Most recent purges appear to target a distinct human network and are part of Xi's continued effort to assert his personal control over the PLA. 2. Taiwanese military modernization. The Taiwanese EY approved a large investment in domestic drone production and the procurement to enhance Taiwanese defenses against PRC aggression. These moves reflect the Taiwanese commitment to integrating advanced technologies, such as drones, into its defensive concept. 3. Taiwanese resilience. The Taiwanese LY approved a special budget to support preparations to withstand a PLA blockade. The budget provides funds to stockpile fuel and other critical supplies, among other things. The LY passed the budget in a rare instance of tripartisan cooperation among the 3 major political parties. So what other news do we have to cover for this evening's sleep news update? Well, there really isn't much else right now because this video isn't focused on extreme breaking news. It's focused on providing enough technical information on cognitive warfare and the latest general updates with Russia and Ukraine, the Middle East, and China, and Taiwan. My hope is by now you are very deep into sleep. And so now for the next 20 minutes we are going to have nothing but silence in the hope that you at this point will be able to get that much needed earned sleep. And as always, thank you for watching World Conflict Zone Sleep Edition Episode 1.